100 years ago, in the 1920s, they were advertising cigarettes as saying, you need your tobacco vitamins. We have to more appreciate that food is medicine. You look at something like staff lunches and you go, okay, well, do we have that set up as a program, or are we simply just giving people time off to go off to the local McDonald's?
As the hospitality industry struggles with the staff shortage crisis, hotels are paying more attention to the growing importance of employee well-being.
This whole idea of modern wellness is basically discovering that in order to have a good mood, to feel well, and to look well, and to have good energy levels, and to be strong, you need to be doing certain things for your body and your mind. And get well-being through we could go with Peter Attia's 4 pillars that he wrote in his book, Outlive You, that my 4 pillars are 2 internal, mind and body, 2 external, relationships and community.
This is Adam Mogelonsky, seasoned luxury hospitality consultant, passionate about health and longevity. I invited Adam to discuss what hotels can do to retain talent, and he delivered a masterclass. I bet that you are thinking that these things are impossible to achieve, so I asked him for a real-life example. Have you seen any hotels applying any type of well-being program for their staff?
Luxury end, they all understand this. Yeah. The luxury end, they really care for their teams. I'm continually wowed whenever I visit a luxury property and I meet with the senior team and how much they really care about everyone that's on site. And it's just incredible.
What's up, hospitality? My name is Mauricio Schiller, and you are listening to the Schillering Hub podcast. If you're new here, I have a favor to ask you. Please press the subscribe button and like this video. Now, tune in. It's time to start the chat and learn something new with Schillering today. Hello, Schiller, and welcome back to another episode of the Schillering Hub podcast, talking hospitality. And today we are talking about staff well-being. One of the things that we've been searching for in our quest for happiness in hospitality. How can we make our staff to feel better? Today I invited Adam Mogelonsky from Hotel Mogul Consulting, advising luxury lifestyle, upscale, independence with creative solutions and a lot of creative content. If you haven't connected with him, check out his articles. It's awesome. So Adam, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Just been chatting here about Brazil. I know that you are excited to board on a plane, fly to Brazil, and enjoy my lovely country. So I hope you enjoy that and take on my advices.
Of course. Yeah.
Adam, we will talk about staff well-being. We've been in this search for happiness in hospitality. It's a series that we've been discussing with some professionals, trying to find out what are the things that make hospitality a great place and what are the things that don't make hospitality such a great place to work, and try to figure out why there is such pressure now into the labor crisis, and how can we maybe find some strategies to overcome this crisis and have better service, more quality people to serve our guests. I invited you because we've been sharing a lot about health in general, biohacking, and longevity. I read about you, and you were almost a doctor before engaging in nutrition, physical education. I am a physical education teacher as well, so I got very impressed with that. So how was that beginning, your passion for health and your lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle?
Well, I did my undergrad in life sciences or pre-medicine, and then went on to study physical therapy and did personal training. And then before I did all that, I joined my father in his ad agency. So I was still doing clients on the side and still learning and progressing out of university, and then just fell into hospitality because that was my father was involved. So, generational hotelier, as they say.
That's the way. I think that's the best way, actually, to when you learn from home and you start getting the rest from what is the essence of hospitality because you are living that life. But let's get to what we want to discuss, that it's how can we help staff well-being in the industry. And can you maybe describe where we were like 20 years ago, and to get some context on where we were 20 years ago when it comes to staff well-being?
Right. So this whole idea of modern wellness is basically discovering that in order to have a good mood, to feel well, and to look well, and to have good energy levels and to be strong, you need to be doing certain things for your body and your mind. And we're slowly figuring out through scientific discoveries what is good and what's bad. And right now, I jokingly say that we're simply rediscovering what traditional cultures knew 2,000 years ago in terms of what's good for you. It gets this banner of lifestyle, but really we're discovering things over time, like smoking cigarettes is not good for your health. And to give you some context, you say 20 years ago. If you look at it 100 years ago, in the 1920s, they were advertising cigarettes as saying you need your tobacco vitamins. They were saying cigarettes were good for you. And then, of course, that there were scientific studies, population studies, statistics, and then eventually the word got out, and then the companies got sued, and all that sort of played out during the 60s and 70s. And then it took a generation to get them off of addictive substances, and now we just know that cigarettes are bad. And what's happening over the past 20 years is that we have a confluence of factors coming into play. We have increased cooperation amongst universities and other research arms that, as facilitated by the internet and just the opening of borders. And on top of the internet is more layers of technology, so better tools for testing, whether that is involving some form of artificial intelligence or just machine learning in a more specific sense. And together over the past 20 years, we're getting better and better at doing research and to figuring out what actually works. And then it is all compounding now because of the amount of previous knowledge we had. So a good way to look at this is to look at the Human Genome Project, which was roughly in the 90s, and then sort of early 2000s came out and said, we've sequenced the first full genome and it only cost us, $2 billion. Ha ha ha. Now you can get a blood sample at home. You can submit that and get a full DNA sequence for under $1,000. That's Moore's Law. And Moore's Law is happening in research. It's happening in medical discoveries. It's happening in nutrition. It's happening in wellness. It's also happening as gets trickled down into the public sphere and people's appreciation for the value of wellness. And wellness is a banner term for everything under that hood. And what is slowly reaching people's minds is that certain lifestyles are good insofar as feeling good, looking good, feeling strong, acting well, and being able to care for others and having a positive mindset on your environment, on your world, on your community. And then other things should be avoided or moderated, let's say. And there's lots of nuts and bolts. We can go into that with specific things. And there's obviously lots of nuance that needs to still be researched to figure out what is conclusively good and what is conclusively bad. And there's lots of variation within that because each person is different. But that's the overall context of where we're going. Things are moving fast. And we've seen technology since Gen AI was brought to the public sphere within the past 2 years, and things are moving fast in the medical sphere. So more and more things are getting discovered. More and more people are wanting and craving wellness in their lives, and they're adjusting their lifestyles and their habits accordingly towards something that is better for longevity, for health span, for physique, for being able to care for their family, their friends, and their community.
That's a fantastic recap. Thank you for sharing. It's like I haven't really looked before with this whole spectrum of change and how can actually affect these new generations and all that claim of I want to feel good. And sometimes we criticize that, but it's truly is an evolution that is happening from the latest medical discoveries. Thank you. That was really awesome. And when it comes to like hospitality, because hospitality is really physical demanding, time demanding, and mentally demanding sometimes, right? There are a lot of pressures that emotional demanding. So how can hotels move beyond the basic wellness programs and truly prioritize employee health and well-being?
Right. So you say beyond the basics. I would say mastering the basics, because there's so much within those basics that hotels can do to really improve those core pillars of wellness and well-being. And I'll use well-being to describe the personal interpretation of wellness programming. Just a little point of semantics there. But I'm inclined to look at well-being through we could go with Peter Attia's 4 pillars that he wrote in his book Outlive, which is mental health, sleep, food or nutrition, and fitness. I would also argue that those are the internal, mind and body. There's the external factors, which is your relationships, your one-to-one relationships with people, and your one-to-many relationships, the community. So I would argue that my 4 pillars are 2 internal, mind and body, 2 external, relationships and community. And within those 4 basics, those 4 pillars, there's so many ways that hotels as a culture and as an organization can set up policies and programs to really help people. On the body front, let's start there. We have to more appreciate that food is medicine. Is your car running on 92 octane fuel or 60% octane fuel? And you look at something like staff lunches and you go, okay, well, do we have that set up as a program, or are we simply just giving people time off to go off to the local McDonald's to go get their lunch, or relying on them to bring their own lunch and we have no control over that? So something as simple as staff lunches or funding refreshments, such as a fresh fruit bowl that's readily available, that can really go a long way. And you can't immediately quantify the relationship between putting fruit bowl out and making sure the fresh fruit is available every day to the guest experience, which is going to drive your top line and your bottom line. But you can see that over time, because the guests will feel better. There'll be less paid time off less sick days. I guess we could say, wherever that's defined by territory. Their employee satisfaction scores are better. There's less turnover, things of that nature. But that's just one pillar of 4. So that's the body, which is food as medicine, which is looking at the nuts and bolts and, the mechanisms of, eat your blueberries every day because they contain anthocyanins, which are really good for developing the brain because the polyphenols train the hormesis and blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. We get it. That's the body part. Now let's look at other pillars and let's think that, okay, staff lunches are also about community. So let's look at break room design and how are we bringing our teams together so that way they're eating together. They're developing those bonds over those staff lunches. Is the break room a great environment for getting together and having a laugh in between shifts? Are shifts set up to allow people to regroup for refreshments or for lunches or for dinners together? And then that's the community pillar, the one-to-one relationships. Is management designed to have those one-to-one mentorship lunches where a supervisor or a manager has time and has the proper bandwidth to sit down and have lunch once a week, once a month with various team members and share a meal together? And, I my last name, Mogelonsky, you might have guessed it, I'm Jewish. And a big thing here is we break bread together. And it is a timeless tradition in the Jewish faith. And here I want to apply an expression that is not mine, but it works. And the expression is, a tradition is an experiment that went right. So people break bread together, they develop those strong relationships, they talk about who they are, and they know one another. The food is medicine. It is also a vehicle for developing a family and a strong community. So there you have it, the 4 pillars: body, mind, relationships, community.
Sorry to interrupt. If you're enjoying this show and if you are learning something new today, please consider following the show, subscribe to our channel, or leave us a review. It helps us to help more people through the podcast, and it would mean the world to us. Thank you for listening, and we're back on the chat. That's super cool. Well, when you say like food is medicine, it kind of strikes me because food, in my understanding, should just be our fuel. But we've been poisoning us with food. So what I want to clarify is food medicine, or we have an issue with food being poisoned?
Okay. So now we have to get into some mechanisms. I mentioned this word nuance. And what I would say is that you need high quality food as fuel. And low quality foods can have elements in them that are poisonous to the body. Let's start with something as simple as tap water. This is less so a case in Europe where there's high filtration, but over here in Toronto, where I am sitting right now, the tap water that I have has a full list of chemicals that are in a very minor component in them. Those can be microplastics, leftover prescription pills that are either flushed down the toilet or work their way into the sewer system because your body pisses them out. They can be fluoride or heavy metals, things that you look at them on paper, they're 1 part per million or 1 part per billion, but you add that up, you add all those chemicals up, those 200 things, those total dissolved solids, you add them up, and then you compound that over 20 glasses of water per day if you're getting your 4 liters, times 365 days per year. And then that adds up to a lot of load on your liver that it needs to do in terms of detoxifying all those things that are coming through tap water, in addition to the toxins that could be in non-organic foods because they're sprayed with herbicides and pesticides, the things that you're breathing in if you're living in the city and there's car fumes, the volatile organic compounds that are slowly leaching out of carpets or furniture or any sort of plastics you have around your house. All that accumulates and compounds and creates a load on your liver that together makes it poisonous. Not to mention all the bad habits like smoking, binge drinking, not getting enough sleep, etc., etc. So you start with high quality foods, organic plants, mushrooms, very healthy. Using, if you are an omnivore or a carnivore, thinking about meats, saying, okay, well, if this is CAFO, caged animal feeding operation, the giant factory raised beef, what are they eating? Because you are what you eat. You are what you ate. So a factory raised cattle or chicken or pork is very different than something that is grass-fed, grass-finished, or pasture-raised for eggs or wild-caught for fish. They may look the same, but on a biochemical and atomic level, they are different. And if you start eliminating the unhealthy foods, the non-organic vegetables. You start filtering your tap water. You start limiting, I don't want to say completely abstaining from alcohol because, let's face it, we have to have a life here, and alcohol actually is a social lubricant, so it works on that pillar of community and relationships. So it might be a net positive. I digress. So you start going towards cleaner sources of animals, such as grass-fed, grass-finished beef. Here in Canada, we have ranch-raised bison because we're incentivized to try to repopulate the Great Plains. Wild-caught salmon, wild-caught sardines, anchovies, things of that nature. And you start going towards a more holistic diet towards the gold standard, which is Mediterranean, the most studied diet. You start going towards that diet, and all of a sudden food, you eliminate the poisons that may be lurking in your food, and then you have high quality food that actually becomes medicine.
I love how you put it in the simple terms first, as the hotels can do something about the way that the staff eats, right? Like creating the better environments, create that opportunity for the fuel that they consume, plus how they interact with their colleagues and one-on-one with their managers. And when we move to what we've seen to more innovative approaches from hotels, or that you've seen around that hotels can incorporate for different types of challenges that our workers face, such as the irregular schedules that they have. Most of hotels are 24/7 service, so we need to have the people losing their night sleep and sleeping during the day, and that has a huge impact in the body. And also the high stress levels of serving high demanding guests and having to face high demanding managers as well.
Right. So I want to introduce a term. It's educate to motivate. So I'm a big believer that if you come down and you say, we're going to do this now, and this is the way we're doing it, fine. But even better is to start with why. Tell people why you're doing it, and then guide them along this path. So the irregular work cycles for hospitality, there's only so much we can do. That's just part of the industry, right? You can't, if you need security at 2 a.m. to protect your guests as part of that social contract, you can't all of a sudden say, okay, well, we're only going to have security from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. because we value our workers getting a proper circadian rhythm. Can't be done, right? You need to have people there. But you can educate and say, hey, listen, okay, step one is we're going to teach you about proper sleep, and you have to understand that this is potentially a harm. We're going to give you the tools for proper sleep hygiene at home. We're going to care for you by providing you high quality foods. So even though your sleep may be suffering, at least your food can be medicine while you're here. We're going to really care for you because we care about your health. You're going to tell them why you're doing this. And then you're going to educate them and say, listen, the more you know about your own health and the more mindful you can be about your own health, the better you can treat this job, because the more motivated you'll be to succeed. As well, the less likely you are to burn out, because you'll spot that burnout. You'll be able to spot yourself and say, hey, listen, I did the night shift. Can I be switched to a day? And I really want to try that out. I think it'll be better for my health.
I work in a casino, right? So we are 24/7, and having to balance that. It's basically what we do is trying to balance how don't change our staff schedule. So try to keep them in the evening if they are working in the evening. Keep them there. Try not to move them to evening, because this is probably what kills the most of the energy, is just not being able to adapt, right? And have you seen...
Yeah. First, yes, don't change the schedule right off the bat, because you have to maintain a rhythm, and that's good for the body, good for the circadian rhythm, whichever it's set. But ask them first. Mm-hmm. Have a conversation with them. Develop that relationship. Break bread with them and discuss this one-to-one and say, hey, listen, you're on the night shift. Is that working for you? Do you feel as though it's working? Mm-hmm. Would you want to transition to another shift? How does that look like for you? Have a conversation about it. And then that alone, that conversation will make them feel valued, and will help them to stick with the organization, because they feel like it's a community.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. I want one here advice live. And I love how you use the education part, right? Like it's not only have that conversation, but give them the tools to actually look after themselves when they're not at work, giving them the opportunity to learn and actually take from themselves, not, as you just said, from the management. But if you move to biohacking, because I've seen you posting things of your meals sometimes and how you've been studying deeply into biohacking strategies, and can they be implemented for the staff from the hotel?
Yes and no. So a key term in the biohacking community that you'll see coming up is N of 1, or N equals 1. And what that describes is that when you look at a medical research paper, you typically need a sample size of N equals 200 individuals or something around there in order to have a good barometer and to ensure that it's statistically significant and not too outweighed by any individual outliers within the population or sample study. So N equals 1 is basically saying that biohackers are continuously experimenting on themselves. They're feeling their own bodies. They're seeing what works for themselves. And they're using various external scientific research or actual tests to ensure that they're on the right track beyond what they can see for themselves, i.e., they're how they look in a mirror or how they feel or how well they're sleeping and so on. So N equals 1. N equals 1 is not scalable. You can't apply that to an employee policy, which is what makes it hard to get beyond the basics in terms of things like prescribing supplements to people and saying, oh, okay, we're going to give free melatonin to everyone here because, people can abuse it. You overdo melatonin use, and then through a negative feedback loop, it can shut down your own internal production of melatonin. And that's the mechanism there. So you need to be very nuanced with your application of anything that has a pharmaceutical quality. The whole idea of mastering the basics is saying, okay, we're going to give you the tools and sort of show you the map, and then you're going to choose what works for you over time, and we're always here to take it to that next level of education or improving. So, 1-to-1, you don't want to say you're a smoker, you stop smoking right now, but you can create an incentive program for people to stop smoking, and you can have counseling around that. And same thing with ultra-processed food. We know that these foods, these things that are chemically put together that resemble regular food, our bodies, evolutionarily speaking, have not caught up with that, and they affect you in a variety of ways. They promote weight gain. They can make you go through these highs and lows of energy and fatigue, these sugar spikes. They can affect your mood, all those things. So if you're trying to incentivize people to move away from ultra-processed food, in the break room, do you put a vending machine that has candy bars in there? Or do you put out the fruit bowl and eliminate the vending machine? Make it easy for them. You nudge them towards healthier decisions. And then also you educate on it. You have a conversation with it saying, hey, listen, we're eliminating the vending machine. We're removing all Coca-Cola from the break rooms, but we're going to give you free, freshly squeezed orange juice every day. And here's why we're doing that. Because one has weird chemicals in it and is going to destroy your gut microbiome. The other has vitamin C that's matrixed in it with a bunch of other stuff, and it's freshly squeezed, and it will make you feel better, which in turn means you can better care for your families. You'll have more energy at the end of the day. We care. And if you have any objections to it, we're always open and we can see about that. So that's the whole nuance of applying biohacking, where biohacking is basically saying, well, we have to assume that biohackers are basically the 0.00001% of the population. They're a little bit crazy right now, and we have to assume that our housekeepers, our front desk teams, etc., they aren't necessarily into it. They haven't taken the red pill right now, but in time, if we educate them and start teaching them the basics of nutrition, the basics of wellness, like maintaining a regular sleep cycle, teaching them about sleep hygiene, teaching them about just basic stretching, the powers of squatting from time to time and moving, regular movement. If we start teaching them with that, they'll see the value of staying with us for the long term as part of that program. And then that becomes a program that prevents turnover without necessarily increasing pay scale to affect the sheer bottom line on an income statement.
Yeah, like, have you seen any hotels applying any type of well-being program for their staff?
Luxury end, they all understand this. Yeah. The luxury end, they really care for their teams. I'm continually wowed whenever I visit a luxury property and I meet with the senior team and how much they really care about everyone that's on site. And it's just incredible. And of course, this whole N of one problem of scalability, they have to proceed cautiously because they have to take the employee into account, and it still has to make good business sense and all that. But they really do care about their teams and care about everyone, and they know everyone by name, and they let them experience they let them experience the experiences. They also offer guests, so they don't feel like it's a schism or one for one for the other. They really are adopting this whole idea of all stakeholders within an organization.
I'd love to see some of that. It's amazing. Like, I have to say it, like, here in the region I am located, I haven't seen, not even a luxury segment, I haven't seen the staff well-being being actually taken in consideration. I may be wrong, and please, if I'm wrong, just comment here and call me out and invite me to go to the hotel. I really want to see that happening because I haven't seen it, and I want to be called out on this one. But Adam, you love technology as well. Talk a lot about technology. You like to research about that. And is there any type of technology that can help the employees, like wearables or anything that can actually assess the employee well-being?
Of course. I mean, the main area in wearables is this new sleep tech, the Oura Ring or the Whoop Band or a bunch of others. And yeah, you could give one to every employee, and they can track their sleep and they can start getting measurements and all that. But then you still have to educate. You still have to tell them what it means. Like, what does blood oxygenation level mean? What does heart rate variability mean? Why is it better to have a greater score in heart rate variability? What does it mean to have only 1 hour of deep sleep or slow wave sleep versus 2 hours of REM sleep? And what does it mean in terms of the actual repatterning to develop a good sleep architecture? What do those terms mean? I don't know. I just said a lot of words, but there's education in there. And the more you educate, the people can say, okay, I understand what these measurements mean. Now I can understand those Oura Rings. That all said is, you talk about scalability, and that's very tough to do because now not only do you need to do separate educational classes on sleep and sleep hygiene and sleep architecture and sleep science, which is a lot of time, and you have to hire an expert to do that. But also now you need to give all these devices to people to bring home, and that has a large subscription cost. You could, if you wanted to, you could make a business case for that about how, okay, we're going to be a sleep-centric hotel, and we're going to be aimed to have a guest program where we have these, and then yada, 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 and we pay for it so that way our staff knows how to talk about it, and then they can better sell it, and then they can better deliver more hospitable service to guests and all that. You could make a business case for that, but that all has to be done at scale, which makes it very hard to do. And that really is the problem with sleep tech, is it's very easy to justify on the guest level or to the direct-to-consumer level, where it's just one line item. Okay, here's our OPEX of how much our subscription costs. Here's how much we're going to overcharge for it on the nightly rate to cover our margins. But when you're dealing with employees, that's an indirect cost, or it's a little bit hard to measure in terms of direct uptake from the guest revenue side. So it's a little bit harder to calculate from a feasibility from the get-go.
Yeah, I love that, but I love how it opens so many opportunities to lifelong learning when you start looking after your staff, right? Like, as you just said, like you you want to look after the food. Yes, you put food there, but you need to educate your staff on why they should choose this type of food, not to go back home and then just grab a McDonald's and go to sleep, right? To continue that program. And I love that because it actually, for me, my understanding, it's what I believe, that if you open more lifelong learning opportunities for the staff, they also engage more with the brand, more with the work as well, because you're giving something back that's towards me. It's not only me giving everything that I have to you, right? So I love that, how you tackle that.
Yeah, of course. Organizations are communities, and you have one-to-one relationships with your direct reports up or down the hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
There's other ways you can go about this, and to draw back on this whole idea of N equals 1 and biohacking, the other wearable you could look at is what's called continuous glucose monitors. And these are sort of a fun one where you basically are attaching something that during or around a meal, you can measure people's blood glucose levels. First use for people with diabetes, but now for biohackers, they're looking at things such as food sensitivities or bio-individualization of how you respond to individual foods. And I say bio-individualization because there is a genetic and there is a microbiome and an epigenomic component to this. So, people who are of certain genetic backgrounds may respond differently to different foods. And that can be a combination of where they're from, where their ancestors are from, their genetics. It can be their gut microbiome, which is dependent on what they're exposed to all the way from before birth, because the microbiome is dependent on the mother, whether you were going all the way back to whether you had a cesarean or not, and also environmental factors throughout your life and what you're eating. For instance, ultra-processed food does alter the gut microbiome, which then has downstream effects on your body in terms of how your bacteria that are living inside of you right now react and respond to your gut and your organs. And then also epigenetics, which is to say which genes in your body are turned on and off, which can be altered through various wellness programming. So all that is interacting over 7 trillion cells inside your body. It makes it very complicated, but then you could take this simple, fun measurement during lunch and you could look at different foods and see, oh, well, watermelon spikes my sugar, but blueberries don't. Oranges don't, but for some reason, eating red meat spikes my blood sugar levels. Why is that? That's sort of fun. Do I want to have a glucose spike or do I not want to have a glucose spike? How heavy is the glucose spike? How long does it last? What's its amplitude, right? Is the glucose spike like, woo, like this, or is it slowly dragged out? Whether you ate the watermelon with some more fiber or you didn't eat it with fiber to slow it down or speed it up. And there's lots of fun ways you can do that from a biohacking standpoint. You could try giving that to your employees and letting them play around with it for 1 or 2 days to get a sense with it and just say, hey, like, every person is different. Try these with different foods, see how you respond and have some fun with it. So that's another way you can educate, you can motivate, you can let them try, you just have some fun with it and introduce them to what biohackers are doing nowadays as sort of the fun, futuristic way of going about it.
Yeah, like workshops with biohackers. That would be awesome, actually. Like, I would love to see something like this. And if we go more into the problems that they face, right? Like high rates of burnout, a high stress level. What do you think that hotels can do to tackle these areas? Because it seems that it comes from the industry. My understanding from the industry is that the people just think that like this is part of the industry. Do you agree with that, or can we do something about it?
Burnout is a part of every industry. So yes, it is a big part of hospitality, and it's coming to a focus right now because of the macro forces that are influencing labor to the industry. On a one-to-one level, what can individual brands do, whether those brands are 1,000 properties or 1 or 2 properties or a small group? And let's go back to our 4 pillars. body, mind, relationships, community. And for body, we've discussed food is medicine. You can throw in some fitness stuff in there, like having groups stretching classes. And then I was about to say group stretching classes, which brings that community aspect back into it. So you can hit multiple modalities at once. There's a very important term here, I think, that goes back to the big why behind why people are doing certain jobs. And that is succession planning and mentorship. And that goes back to the relationship pillar. So if you tell people why their job is important, what it means to make guests feel special, not just lodging, but hospitality, real hospitality. You tell them how important their job is, whether it is the housekeeper, where the housekeeper is the most important job in the hotel, because if you don't have clean rooms, you can't sell those rooms, all the way through to the night security guard who's giving guests peace of mind in a foreign environment where they may not feel safe, whether consciously or unconsciously. You can tell people the big why of how important their job is, and that alone will eliminate burnout because they'll feel like they're part of something bigger. The succession planning and the mentoring comes in and basically saying, well, okay, I'm going to mentor you on why your job is important, but also I understand that a big part of well-being is also financial well-being. And moving up this pyramid of Maslow, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is to say, okay, well, you're starting off and you need financial security to afford an apartment and afford to eat, to afford your family. But now eventually we want you to be self-actualized people. We want you to have increased decision-making power and empowerment within your role, so that way you feel self-actualized and you feel like you have more creativity in what you do on the job. So that can be done through mentorship, and succession planning is basically saying, well, okay, stick in this role for 2 years. Here's your big why of how you're helping. And eventually we're going to give you more responsibility through a promotion or a better pay scale or more empowerment to do certain tasks without direct supervision. And then you're going to become self-actualized. And those will help with burnout. The other aspect, of course, is educate to motivate. Let's get back to that. So you can teach them about mindfulness. You can teach them about saying, well, part of burnout's just natural because you maybe have worked at something for 2 months straight and you haven't had a day off. So part of it is having a policy where people feel like they can go to their bosses one-on-one and they have a safe place, even though I hate that term, safe place, but they have a safe place to speak their mind about saying, hey, listen, I got a lot of other stuff going on at home. My parent is sick, dog is sick, kid is going through whatever, yada, yada, yada. Can I take a few extra days off, or can we find some accommodation for this, or what's your solution? And again, you go back to that relationship, that mentoring relationship, and you have a conversation about it. And then as well, the mentor, the leader, the manager is empowered to actually make that accommodation and do something special for them. So that way it's no longer just manager and employee. It is mentor, mentee. It is friend talking with a friend. And those tactics together, combined with, the increasing pay scale to keep pace with inflation, the food is medicine, access to the spa from time to time, incentivized accordingly, all that together as part of a great HR program, you'll do your best to prevent burnout.
Yeah, that's like when you come to mentorship, it helps so much, right, for avoiding burnout, because it just gives that access to someone up there to answer your questions and help you through the moments that I just had a conversation on Monday with Shannon McCallum from Resort World Las Vegas about mentorship, and
she's a gem to the world.
What sensational.
Yeah.
Sensational. And it's so inspiring when you have someone like that in that leadership position, inspiring everyone to actually help each other, that community sense again. And then you can build such a large team of 2,000 people.
And it shows, right? Because when you care for your guests, that will halo. When you care for your staff, that will halo onto the caring for the guests.
Yeah.
Guests can really feel when staff are appreciated. They know it, and they're willing to pay a premium for that in what is hospitality, the truest sense of hospitality, taking somebody into your house and treating them like a family member. And the only way you can do that at scale is by caring for your guests. And there's no better place to show that at scale than Resorts World, where Shannon McCallum works. And, you know, she's in charge of a literal army, but that army is a family. And everyone at that property is just so great to speak to. They're all so warm and friendly. And yes, this giant casino property, but everyone cares, and you want to spend more time there. You want to eat at all the restaurants because they're perfect service. And yeah, you want to go to the pool and hang out, and it creates this experience. You're like, yeah, I'm going to go back there. I'm going to tell everyone about it. And then it just creates this positive feedback loop, all starting by caring for your teams.
That would be actually my next question, right? Like, but what was the proven benefits of actually investing in a staff health and well-being program? And we just said now, it just comes like people are willing to pay that premium price, if they are receiving hospitality. Is there anything to add?
No, that's it. And we see this time and again where the premium is being paid right now, and it gets slowly recognized by the invisible hand that is living in a capitalist society. I personally work at the luxury and ultra luxury, and no property in the luxury or ultra property end can succeed without that level of personality and the personal delivery of hospitality. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as addressing somebody by name. You know, it's done, it's cared for, the little touches that make all the difference. And really it's this nature of getting back into the business of hospitality, not just lodging. And it will go both ways. You know, not everyone needs that hospitality experience or has the disposable income to go for a luxury experience. So for them, there is economy, there's budget, there's select service, limited service. That end of the spectrum, that will increasingly see more automation and more things to keep the margins and to make it more of a lodging-esque, dare I use the term, vending machine experience. But at the other end, it's going the complete opposite direction. The ultra-luxury properties that are able to charge thousands of dollars or euros per night, they do such a great job of making that experience personal and the property personal and having identity for that property, that it's really making for a once-in-a-lifetime experience to visit all these properties and to dine with them, to hang out in the lounge or the living room, or to experience their spa, or just to have a drink by the pool.
Let's think about the future a little bit, because today I was reading a post from Rocco Bova. He just shared a post about how luxury properties are struggling in the war for talent, right? So if there's this war for talent, it means that like the industry, the source of labor is decreasing. There is less enrollment in hospitality schools, according to that article. So if we move forward and think about the future, you just said that we can go both ways, but if there is this lack of talent, are we moving more towards a self-serving industry, or the human touch will be there, or will be really, really only a premium feature?
So it's moving both ways. The self-serving lodging vending machine is going to move towards more automation and eliminating labor wherever possible, and moving from like individual GMs to area GMs or cluster GMs, because there's so much automation on the above property reporting side and management side that you don't necessarily need an on-site GM all the time. You just need on-site security, maintenance, housekeepers, and even then you can try to optimize to make those as efficient as possible, until such time as we have big happy robot housekeepers, which is a long way off, but we'll get there. On the other end, you have the personalization, the increasing personalization of service in whatever direction the luxury and ultra luxury brands want to go with that. And within that, what you're going to see is more and more layers of invisible technology behind the scenes, where what we're saying is that people who are entering hospitality are not necessarily entering our industry because they are technologists, because they studied engineering in university or chemistry, and they're coming to our industry to become technologists. Or similarly, because of our pay scale, a lot of people have a mindset where they are willing to dole it out and work 12 to 14 hours a day in a high-stress environment, but are going to sign the social contract to earn a lot of money over time as they progress in their career. They may be more attracted to finance and go through the rigmarole of, waking up at 5 a.m. and then not leaving their desk between 9 till 4:30 during the open stock market hours, stuff like that, and doing that for 10 years and letting their house suffer. But at the end of the day, they're earning a 7-figure salary. Mm-hmm. Hospitality is not for those people. Hospitality is for people who are passionate about service, who are passionate about making people feel special. And there will always be a place for those people because not everyone is created equal. Some people are of that logical, tactical mind. Others are more caring, more empathetic, and they'll be continually attracted to hospitality. Right now, we're still sort of in a repercussive wave of the pandemic, where pandemic threw people away from the industry because of, social distancing, high contact place where viruses can be spread, and then all the post-pandemic stress and people filtering out. That will shake out, and there will be more people who would be attracted to hospitality over the next 5 and 10 years. The best that we can do is to do our best to ensure that they can be as guest-facing as possible by creating more and more of this invisible layer of technology, so that way they don't need to do the administration, the repetitive work, all the stuff they don't want to do. They can just be guest-facing and really help those guests, and to be ever more empowered to help the guests in interesting and personalized ways.
That's awesome. I read the book When You Won, Lessons for the 21st Century from Yuval Harari, from Homo Sapiens, right? And he, in his predictions of what's going to happen in this century, one of the things that he says is people that have that human desire to serve humans will get a very good future ahead of them, because as we automate the logical thinking, that human personalization, that power to make the human connection will become more and more important, because you cannot get AI to do that. So like being a nurse, being in hospitality, being a personal trainer, even though you can try to get personal training videos, but having one-to-one, face-to-face talking to you and motivating you is a lot different than that. So I love that angle that he's in, and you just said it now, right? Like in the next 5 to 10 years, probably a lot of more people will start engaging into the industry because they have the opportunity to do that. So, Adam, thank you so much for your time. It was an awesome chat. How can our audience get in touch with you if they haven't? So
I'm sure you're going to add my email to the show notes or something of that nature, but my website is hotelmogel.com, Mogel spelled MOGEL.com. So hotel, HOTELMOGEL.com. That's our website. Reach out if you're interested and if you want to learn more.
Adam, thank you so much. Enjoy your trip to Brazil, and I'll talk to you next time. Schiller, thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.